All right, it's 8 up, straight up and down. Let's start our meeting. Roll call, please.
Chairman Tibbs,
Here.
Mr. Knight,
Present.
Mr. Harris, Mr. Chapman, Ms. Fleur.
Here.
All right, thank you. Everyone should have their copy of the last month's minutes from February 17th. Any questions, adjustments? If not, do I have a motion we approve the minutes? So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Moving on to our claims on page 3. Darryl, you over budget.
Well, if you take out the special projects, we're under actually. Deleting all the special projects, we're down to about 316 in normal operations.
That's below budget.
Yeah. All the engineering and the water tank rehab, tank 1, that was 170 something thousand. And then the engineering's another 80,000 or 60,000 on the projects. So, you know, we take those out and we're back in normal operations.
All right. Any other?
Just to make the board aware that on the page 6 of the claims, the Robinson and Son 171,000, that's only 95% of the contract amount because we had held 5% retainage because they got some items to complete. Come back and finish up, and Jeremy inspected, the inspector for Goodwin Mills and Kaywood inspected it again and developed another punch list. They didn't complete some of them, so we still haven't completed that. We're retaining that 5% until they finish it up.
Okay. Any questions from the board on the on claims? Discussion? Do I have a motion we approve the claims? So moved. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to our financial report, page 9.
Our total revenues for February are unfavorable when compared to the budget. Our total revenues are $262,660.17 compared to budgeted of $270,670.83. Our total revenues for February are also unfavorable when compared to the same period last year. Our year-to-date actual revenues remain above year-to-date budgeted amounts. Water sales are less than the budgeted amounts by 4.7%. February water sales are down from the previous month and also down from last year. Revenues for sewer are $101,422.77, which is unfavorable compared to last month, and unfavorable compared to the budget for this month by 1.3%. Our other revenues are favorable for the month when compared to the budget. Our total operating expenditures are less than the current month's budgeted operating expenses by 8%. Total year-to-date expenses are favorable by 15.9%. The administrative department is unfavorable by 0.9% this month. Water operations and wastewater department are both favorable for the month. The general expenses department is favorable by 22.5%. Our total payments for the month of February were $557,474.36. But after we take out the capital projects, annual operations of $178,884.50, and our bond and carbo projects of $59,472.50, our total operating expenses were $319,117.36. Our current month income for February is $31,780.32. Our total gallons sold were 32,512,700. And our top 10 customers used approximately 10,167,300 gallons in the month of February, which has trended up compared to the prior month. Those same customers used 9,949,500 in February of last year, and the top 10 customers for that same period used 10,254,500 gallons.
Thank you, Christie.
Okay, overall favorable.
Yeah, revenue's down, somewhat from the prior year. Just our top 10 customers increased a little bit year over year, but we actually sold in, 2014 February, 37 million, and only 32 million this past February. So our general customer base is down, usage was down for the month, so that's why the projections of the budget were over what
Would
we
that be,
actually see.
what would that be, rainfall or?
A number of factors, it just depends on temperature and what people are doing and whether or not they got leaks and that kind of stuff. Like last year, it might have been colder in February and they had more leaks and that kind of thing. It's just, you got a fluctuation year over year. It's hard to determine that amount. I know our top 10 we track, and those are above actually by 10%, so.
Let the record show that Mr. Eugene Harris is here. He has an excuse. This week was his 50th anniversary. Is that correct?
That's right.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
So he's honeymooning.
It's over now.
Oh,
TMI.
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Just a couple items, just for board knowledge, on page 13, the balance sheet. You see our cash is down from the previous month, but that's due to payments for the projects and Tank 1 rehab. It's down about 131,000 at the top up there. And then if you look down at the bottom under construction in progress, under fixed assets, you'll see those are up for work in progress on Carbo 2014 and the O&M reserve fund. That's actually where the assets get placed when we pay for them, is there for the current assets. So that's up 173,000. So it's a net of a 43,000 gain for the month in assets. So. I don't have anything else to point out specifically unless the board has some questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions by the board about the financials? Got a lot going on right now.
Have had some of this coming through the surface now.
Yeah.
We've been pedaling hard under the water.
Yeah, we have. Appreciate everything that's going on right now. It's all positive. All right.
Big difference a year makes in the direction things are going.
There's no questions about the financials. We'll move on to old business, which we have quite a bit of, starting with page 24.
And during the month of February, we produced 46,710,000 gallons of water from the wells. We averaged 1.66 million a day. And we sold 32,512,700 gallons. The unaccounted for factor for the month is 11.89. Gives us a year-to-date of 9.87. All the system samples indicated no coliform present. And our well number 7, we got a vibration in the motor on March the 10th. We determined that it needs balancing. He should be here this week to do that. So it's an electric. Okay, on the wastewater side, during the month, we processed 48,550,000 gallons, or 1.73 million gallons per day. And we had a 99.32% removal of BOD and 99.88% removal of TSS. The rainfall for February was 4.6 inches.
I thought there was quite a bit of rain February. Cloudy days and people don't wash their cars and those type of things.
Most of it came in 2 events. So at the end of the month there,
Yeah.
we see on the
Yeah.
flow charts that were delivered with the packet.
This unaccounted for factor, in previous years doesn't account for the prelude, does it?
Well, before 98, it did not. Since 98, 99, we started putting those prelubes in 99, 2000. So before that, they were oil lubed. So there was no pre-lube water.
Okay,
And then we started accounting for it when we started putting them in, we started accounting for it ever since 99, 2000.
okay, I thought we just put that in just when you came back.
No, they've been being accounted for and unaccounted for water, that amount that's going into prelude.
Okay.
But as far as I'm aware now, ain't that correct, Michael? Because we were doing it when I was here before, so we were, everything we could account for and register, we were.
Okay, I didn't think we were accounting for it until you got back.
No, it was all being accounted for. We hadn't actually added anything on my return. We just cleaned up some of the work that was being done to make it more accurate.
Yeah.
If that's the best way to say that.
Okay.
Okay, at the wastewater treatment plant, we received the number 2 inflow pump back, and we got it installed, and it's running very good. The number 2 Lakewood pump, we received it, we got it installed, and it's running good as well. The Randolph Street pumps, we have we request the board to approve the purchase of 2 new pumps. This outlined right here in the next couple of pages.
You'll see the memo from Michael to Joey, and I just attach that to the board, and then a bid tab sheet where Michael got different various quotes from various companies on pumps.
Where's that pump located on Randolph?
Just south of the railroad track.
Yeah.
The one you can see from City Hall.
See it from City Hall.
The chain link fence across.
Oh,
the
yeah,
paint
okay,
shop.
yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Everything north of Washington Street in Eufaula, Alabama drains goes to that pump almost,
Okay.
those 2 pumps. So it's a major station for us. This is this will be the 3rd set of pumps, right? The Moody's were put in 2010. It was originally put in 05, I think, 06. So, and we got 3 years out of the Homas, the cheaper pumps, and then the Moody's, we got now going on 6 or 5 years. So we discussed all the variety brands, because you see this on that bid tab sheet, it's a great big spread between variety of pumps there, from 50,000, 54,000, or 20,000. So Grant and Jacob from Bill Mills and Cable were here the other day discussing our projects, our rehab projects and all, and we got their input on other jurisdictions in the variety of pumps they use and which ones they would recommend off this list. And they said that the Grunfos for the cost were performing the best for the money. So that's why we were recommending the 21.8 2 Grunfos 40 horse pumps for the Randolph Street lift station. Now this lift station was planned these pumps to be replaced in our 2014 bond projects. What we're going to do is, instead of paying a contractor to put them in, all we got to do is drop them in, is going to purchase them out of that money and put them in. Because we've got a spare pump in there now that's not made for that station, and then the other one. So we're on, if the other one goes down, we're in a bind. So what we'd like to do is, we're going to purchase them in 6 months anyway, might as well go and buy them and not have to pay the contractor their markup. That extra $4,000 or $5,000 they'd charge us to put them in. If the board would approve us to go ahead and do that. And just so, for a reminder, that bond project money, as long as we stay within the scope of the initial issuance of the bond, the board can approve to spend it on whatever they desire.
All right, you need to vote.
So it's not like SRF money or grant money that you're tied to exactly what you said you were going to do. So we'd appreciate approval from the board to purchase the Grunfos pumps from Gilbert Pump.
All right, so what you're asking for is the Gilbert and Grunfos pumps at 21, if it's as tough as his name, it ought to be a tough pump. $21,800, is that correct?
Yes, to be funded from the 2014 bond funds.
To be funded, okay. Do I have a motion?
And you're wanting to get 2 of those?
Correct. To replace both of those pumps, and one that's already out and one that's probably going to go out shortly. Because they usually go out in teams.
I move that we approve the Randolph pump replacement with the Grunfos 2 at 21.8.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you.
where we at here?
Activity report.
Activity report, 28.
Get Gary involved in the presentations. He's gonna take over doing the activity reporting, activity and task reporting. It's a number of the issue items on there are under his area of responsibility now. And more of them will become that when we get as we advance in our automation of our systems.
All right. Doug?
I got just a couple things to mention. One's on the line locate request, 58 for the month of February, which is pretty typical for every month. But now that all of our projects are kicking in high gear, a lot of those are starting to be more difficult line locates. It's not just a simple one area, one spot. Their entire lengths of the road, both sides, water and sewer, so it's pretty time consuming for our guy. And they're increasing, just this month we had another additional 20 that come from Goodwin and down to 20 different streets that do the entire streets. The other one would be on problem water complaints. It actually says 8, but that should be 1, just a typo. Going on down, you see hydrants flowing. We started back up our flowing flushing annual program, and that number should be 62 hydrants were flushed last month,
Where it has 0?
where it has 0.
Can I interrupt, Joe? What's the reason the number's not correct? Are they not getting inputted correctly? Christie, can you clarify?
The 62, we did not have it on the work order itself as the number of hydrants that were flushed. It just kind of named the area.
Okay, so.
So we didn't get that to Christie.
Communication failure from the work order.
Right.
So they didn't know what to input. All right. We got that corrected.
Yes.
And the number 1 with the problem word, actually, when Joe reran it, was only 1. We think it's just a typo. I tried to see where the numbers may have came from, so it's just.
Do we have a work order for each pump, for each flushing?
No, and
It'd just be a general,
usually we have just one work order for that area that we do, different phases
I
that
guess.
we do.
I guess.
We got what, 16, 15 or 16 phases, Michael?
There's 14 phases.
14 now?
Yeah.
And then we do a phase at the time based on the area, the distribution and the well supply. That is how we phase it, so we flush out that area that one well supplies and tank supplies. And then we move to another phase. So.
And then there was one more typo, and that's in the previous year's rainfall. It shows 10.9, and that really should be 5.13 inches. And if you back up a little bit on the hydrant repairs, and this actually is not in for February, but we do have one hydrant that's out of service right now due to a vehicle accident, but we're in the process of repairing that as we speak.
Where's it located?
On the corner of Davis and Comer.
Thank you.
It's another run over.
That's what we were
We
talking about this morning.
discovered 2 valves that hadn't been uncovered since the 50s in 431, and we're able to isolate that hydrant. The reason it wasn't replaced in the Dudley Course project, because we couldn't figure out how to cut it off. And doing a little more research, I found an old 50s map, and Ladon and I got together with the other maps, and we figured out there should be 2 valves out in 431, and we found them. So we were able to cut one off, and then cut the new line on Davis Street off, and kill that hydrant. Without more than 7 people off.
I know we got our hydrants GPS. Did we have the cutoffs GPS also?
Well, they're on our GIS map. All right, the accuracy was done from aerial photographs in 99, 2000, so, and they've never been taken to the next level, and that's where we're going with our projects in the next level with enterprise software, is actually having handhelds go out there and mark them and our meters and everything right where it's at. Because they were done from old maps and edge matched and all kinds. The accuracy is to the level that says, okay, something's there, but it may not be where it shows it on the GIS map. So that's what we gotta do, is go to the next level and get it more accurate. And like these valves,
Absolutely.
nobody knew they were there. David just retired at 37 years, Hosey at 41. They never been to them, never knew they were there.
Yeah.
So that tells you how long it's been, they've been paved over.
Save you some time.
And we got a lot of that, and we just need to keep finding them as we do put them on the GIS system and have it accurately depicted on there.
That's all I got.
All right, just looking at the payments down there, it looks like it's kind of leveled out to where it is. The people that pay online pay online, and walk-ins walk in, and night drop folks do the night drop. That's
Every chance they get, they try to convince them to do the ACH and automatic draft, but there's not been a certain percentage of customers that were willing to do that. We've sent mail outs and everything else, and hadn't got a more positive response on anything, so it is what it is, I guess.
you got what, maybe 18% mail-ins?
Well, the bank drafts are the ones that are the least expensive to process, and we got 15% on that.
Not the mail-in, the bank drafts would be, that'd be 5,000, what would that be? That'd be about 15% or so.
Yeah. The mail-ins, the night drops, and the walk-ins all take the same amount of processing. Whether they mail it or not, we still have to do everything, which is about 80% of them.
Yeah. Okay.
I saw on the news where some jurisdiction was going to start charging their customers additional money for walking in the door. I don't remember which utility it was, but they were the customers were up in arms about it.
And they will be. And they will be.
We're going to charge them a surcharge of $250 or something.
I think if someone comes in to pay the bill on time, I think we ought to hold your neck.
Exactly.
All right,
Any questions on that?
any more questions about the activity report from the board?
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. All right, let's move on to C here, the Eufaula Creek Force Main, page 29.
So, recall, we ran into a rock problem with that project, and y'all instructed Burns to go back and look at other options, and he's done that. And those are the options in that attachment that you have, that he's come up with. And if y'all are interested in looking at the map that he had attached, it wouldn't copy good, so I just borrowed it if y'all are interested in looking at the 3 different options, but y'all are pretty familiar with it and know what it's talking about. So. The risk on the least expensive option, which is the bridge crossing on the crosswalk, is the acquisition of DOT permits, acquisition of additional Corps of Engineering permits, and whether or not the bridge would even support the weight of the pipe. So, talking with Burns, we feel like that 185 is probably going to go up and be a year and a half or 2 years in permitting process, et cetera, and that kind of thing. So, we don't think that's a viable option. It would be my recommendation the board either proceed with the previous footprint and directional boring and bid it back out as a rock bore, or do option 3A as Burns specifies in the last paragraph of his cover letter. Just hold it in abeyance until we can maybe get an industrial client north of town that would be a catalyst for us getting grants to help fund this, or unless we start having additional problems again. We had a number of problems in 11 and 12 that had to get a diver in, but we hadn't had one in about 3 years now, so, with that line leaking. So that's the risk.
What's the status of that line? Is that line completely covered in silt?
I can't answer that. I don't think nobody knows.
I know that creek's silted pretty bad.
We can tell by the alignment of it that it's been pushed downstream from original, because it lays on the bottom, so it's got silt against it. Would be a good.
Our last problem with that pipe was in 2012.
I think it's 12, yeah, so, we're going 3 years without a problem, but, we had 2 or 3 right there in the road in 10, 11, and 12, so, it's one of them deals that it may never give us another problem, and then next week it may give us a major problem.
The problem, the risk you got really is, if you develop a leak, it's not going to do anything but it'll get fixed. Harold and I talked about the real risk is if it would blow out, catastrophic failure. Time you got somebody who fix it, took care of it, you'd be out of sewer north end. no other way to get sewage from the north end to the south end of the thing.
Except that line.
So, you know, but as Darrell and I also talked about, that could happen with a brand new line. So as long as you've only got one route for that sewage from the north end to the south end, you're always gonna have that bridge. So, you know, again,
Is there any way to do a visible inspection of that through cameras or whatever?
It'd be hard.
It stays
Just
surcharged,
put a diver down and inspect outside.
and then the clarity of the water is gonna determine what it can see, which is probably gonna be.
Putting your map here, clearly not too good.
Yeah. You know, as far as putting our camera inside the pipe, we could do that, but then the pipe stays surcharged, so you're gonna have, non-clear water you're trying to look at there.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna accept
Yeah.
anything except non-clear water. So it's difficult to inspect that in the situations, and
So what is the recommendation at this point?
it'd be my recommendation to, postpone the project and follow Burns's 3A recommendation, until one or two factors are happening. Either we get an industrial client north of town that'd be the catalyst for the grant, or we have another problem with the line, then go ahead and bid it out and fix it, right, put the board in. Or, readdress it in a year or so and see what our new revenue may be after all these projects get finalized and covered, when we have additional revenue.
Okay, so we need to table this project if we go with your recommendation
Until one of those three things occur. It would be my thoughts on it. Because right now, we're committed to the tank projects, which is $250,000 a year. We're committed to additional bond financing and debt service of $250,000 a year. So for the next year, until we get additional revenue in from the cargo project, I would say let's wait since we can. If we couldn't, I would say we had the revenue to do it, but since we can, let's wait at least another 12 months unless something occurs.
everybody understands what they're saying?
Let me ask you a question about this map. What's the blue line?
Options.
Let's see. I did that map, so let me see what it was blue.
It's probably a solid green, that's maybe a feeder.
That's a section line, yeah, that's.
Those are sections?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the yellow, the red, and the green are the three options.
Okay.
The green is the original route, the option.
Start over again, you said
The green right here is the
Yes.
original option that we had.
Okay.
Of the borer, but we hit rock and then we gotta go deeper.
Right.
The yellow is the option across the crosswalk, and the red is the other option to go down and then come back in to North Randolph Street, down the trail. Or those are the three options in his letter.
So you wouldn't, if you had to go this one, you wouldn't disturb anything in the cemetery.
Well, you'd have to, just so you wouldn't,
Well, I
so
mean-
you'd be down roadways.
I was gonna
You
say,
would
that
be
would be following the
disturbing-
roads, not
Yeah,
graves.
yeah. Now, you disturb the entire trail and have to rebuild the entire trail.
Yeah,
That's not an option. But it had to be explored, and we did it so as we could see the price. Those are the only three routes to go with the line, so.
what did we say the final price was on a bowl?
Estimated price on the rock board is gonna be about $250, which our original project was $140. Yeah, so $110,000 roughly, additional money.
Okay.
And I think on all the options you'll see on the second page of Burns' thing, they're all gonna end up about that same cost. And the future outcome of the rock board is gonna be a lot better long-term than all the other options, so less maintenance.
All right, with that being said, does the board have any other questions of Bill or Burns? Do I have a motion to table this project until those other options come into play?
I make a motion to table it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Got some more here. On to D.
Carbo, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Carbo wastewater user agreement, sent that to all the board members under, email for information because it's so thick. And unless y'all want a copy of it, I felt like we didn't need to copy all that 20 times. But anybody that wants a copy of it, get with me and we'll get you a copy, a hard copy. Basically, this is a user agreement that's over the last 3 months that Courtney Burns and myself have been negotiating with the Carbo attorney and their engineers. And after numerous revisions and edits and input back and forth, I think we've got an agreement that's works for them, works for us, and legally binds everybody to what we verbally all said originally. Is that pretty much it in a nutshell? We've got hours invested in this thing, multi-hours. So it would be our recommendation that the board approve the wastewater user agreement for Carbo and authorize the chairman and the treasurer to execute it as necessary.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Discussion? Do we have a motion to authorize the Carbo wastewater user agreement?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
I think 20 years from now, 25 years from now, people in this community will still be thanking this board and Carbo for this project.
I'm thinking you now.
Well, I mean, really be appreciative when they actually see what benefits it has for the city and this organization.
All right, moving on here. Authorization to apply for a new wastewater, I don't know what all those.
Wastewater treatment plant, National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit.
That's a new one on me.
They've been around since 1988, Clean Water Act. And what this is, to give explanation, is we currently have a MPS permit, which is our wastewater treatment permit that ADM issues. And it expires in 2017. We renewed it in 2012 with a 5-year permit. What the engineers have recommended is that we ask ADM to revoke that permit and issue us a brand-new permit to incorporate the effluent of Carbo in our effluent, because it's all inclusive, instead of doing the other option would be a modification to our existing permit to try not to confuse the issue. That way, all the engineering costs and everything that's going into this permit would give us an approved permit when ADM approves it for 5 years instead of just 2 more, and have to start over and do it again in 2 years. So that was the reason for the request for revoking and issuing a new one versus a modification. So what we need is authorization from the board to allow the chairman to execute the necessary permit documents, which is another 50-page document.
What's the climate with that ADM on this?
It's good. I mean, they've tentatively approved everything on the whole Carbo project, and we're just getting the paperwork to them now, because we've already met with them a couple of times, and the engineers have met with them multiple more times than that, and they've basically verbally approved everything, and we're just getting all the paperwork in now, and how they need it. There may be some minor adjustments to plans or design, but we don't anticipate anything
They
major.
won't really look at the design, all they'll look at is, you're talking about ADM.
Yeah,
ADM really, they just do cursory review of the actual design. The permit's all they'll really be concerned with.
These are the Alabama,
Department of Environmental Management.
okay, that's,
I know there's a lot of acronyms, but the words get long.
Yeah, you gotta have their blessing.
Yeah, oh yeah, we can't do anything without their blessing, and what we need is the board to authorize the chairman to execute the application necessary for a new NPDES permit for our wastewater treatment plant, which will incorporate the Carbo effluent.
You got that down, Terry? So moved.
second.
You got a first, you got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're at F here.
Yes.
Authorization to advertise for cargo project bids.
On the table over there, we laid out the latest plans, and those are the revised and edited, and our staff and engineers and Carbos, not looked at them yet, but our staff and engineers have reviewed them several times and revised them. That's the necessary improvements to our wastewater plant, which involve a chlorine contact chamber and dechlorination, because we're moving our effluent point from the cascades over by the dog pound to the fence at the wastewater plant because of the Carbo project. So we've got to install a new contact chamber, because we used to use the effluent pipeline as our contact dechlorination, because it dissipated before it got to the cascade, because we can't discharge but 0.05 maximum residual chlorine into Lake Eufaula. So that's why we got to dechlorinate now at the site. And also that's going to have to go right where our current office is, so the displacement office is going to require us to build a new office and lab. And that's all incorporated into this project, and its current estimate is $2,850,000. The user agreement that the board just approved, Carbo is responsible for that entire amount, less any grants that are received. So this costs the organization zero, except my time and all our staff time for reviews. So
It's gonna be a pretty costly project, isn't it?
yeah, that's just the way it is. And this is the cheap version. If we'd had to run it through our plant, it'd have been $10 million to upgrade our plant to accommodate this 1.3 million gallons a day that they're going to be discharging. So this was the most efficient way to accommodate Carbo's expansion. And we'll get a newer lab and office building out of it, and all these new effluent pumps. You know, our current effluent pumps are 20 years old down there. So, you know, they're operating fine, but, you know, everything has a life expectancy, so.
Right.
So there are some advantages for us partnering with Carbo on this project to the organization that would have been other costs out of our pocket.
Will any of the timelines adjusted in the agreements and all that? Okay.
Go ahead, Corey.
Well, I mean, what we did is we told them that, you know, we could not be held to a drop dead date, because there's many factors that depend on whether or not we can do it. We've still got to wait on the Corps to get their approval, and there's just things that can happen. So the way the agreement was written is, we're gonna do our best efforts in order to meet those dates, but we're not gonna be punished if we're unable to be in operation by a certain drop dead deadline. So, I mean, everything's moving as fast as it can, and we're definitely using all of our manpower to try to make it happen as soon, and make it happen upon their wish list, but we're not contractually bound to do it that day and suffer any penalties if we don't, just because there's too many unknowns that we hadn't hit, so.
We have, just to update the board, and Courtney didn't know this, but the Corps, I got verbal confirmation Monday that their authorization is almost guaranteed in the next 2 weeks, or 3
Good.
weeks. And we can thank our local project manager, Mr. Bill Smallwood, for all his work on that. He's worked diligently trying to get that through the bureaucracy to get authorized.
Yeah.
And we've met with him several times, and he's spent a lot of time with their people in their chain of command trying to get this approval for us on an expedited fashion. So that's the good, that was what we were worried about, may take years instead of months. And so that's the good news.
Well, the Corps General was here last week, General Turner, and also Colonel Kitka from Mobile, and they have along with Bill Smallwood, and they have a real proactive attitude about industry, and I was really impressed with them. Their presentations and what they had to say about how they want to work with the communities up and down the river. I'm gonna send Bill a letter and thank him, because he did work hard to expedite this,
And he still carried it through the planning.
And it ain't always been that way.
Yeah, it's not completed yet, but he hand-delivered it to Mobile Planning. So
Yeah, these things normally take as much as years to get
as long as they want it to take, let me
That's
say that.
right, so we definitely want to thank thank, our local office here in Bill for
And
helping us.
the colonel and the
And the
general
colonel and general also.
had very much input into that.
Harold, did you do the latest schedules?
No, not yet. The September was their desired timeline to have this operational. We don't believe we can hit that. Some agreements we've already made with them is they can pre-purchase the pumps, because those are long lead time, and time we bid them out and go through the process, we'll add months to it before they're ordered. So Carbo said, well, we want to know the specs, can we go ahead and buy them ahead of time and give them to you? So they can expedite that, which that's what we're doing. That we've agreed to anything they purchase and give to us, it's in the specifications, they won't be responsible for paying for it because they already did. And that's the intent of the agreement. So that's one of the items we've done to try to expedite the project. The other item is, as part of this MPDS permit application, we're going to still discharge by permit over at the Cascade until we get this project completed and online. Then we'll do a permit modification to bring it back to our fence line. So we're trying to do that so we can do a temporary bypass pump of this new facilities into our effluent main with their effluent, so we can accommodate them on a temporary basis. So we're working with them and aid them and everybody trying to get this done for them on their time schedule. It may not be permanently that way, but we can at least accept their effluent, and they'll start paying us for putting it in our effluent force main. Is that pretty
Yeah,
much?
and their initial flows will be a lot less than their.
Right, they're not. Their startup's gonna be 200 gallons a minute versus 900 gallons a minute.
With this agreement, once it's online, are they responsible for any future maintenance or replacement of these pumps? Because we're talking about these pumps only lasting 5 years over here.
In the service user agreement, we are to establish rates, which can be our ongoing rates or whatever rates we determine for that kind of thing, our additional power calls, pump replacements, operator expense, anything. Those aren't set out detailed in that. It's got a section in there that we establish those rates. This board will establish our needs for that reimbursement.
So they'll reimburse us, we had a.
We'll establish a rate and they'll pay a monthly bill just like
Yeah, they'll
any other
pay for
industry.
the water, they'll pay for the usage.
It'll be your responsibility, it'll be board responsibility to maintain it.
Once we know final cost and replacement cost and then longevity of all the equipment, we'll extrapolate that into a cost per million gallons to treat. And then that's what they'll bill, that's what we'll base the rates on. And that way we'll automatically be building up a pool of reserve money to be able to replace those pumps when they go out. So we don't anticipate it being as high as our current rates because we're not having to collect the wastewater from afar and pump it multiple times to get the wastewater plant. And we're not having to pay power bills to treat it at the wastewater plant. So it will probably be a lesser amount than the current user rate for wastewater is, but it's not going to be a lot lesser time we add all these other factors in. But we won't know that till we get the bids in and know how much everything costs, and then extrapolate the replacement cost. But we'll be presenting that to the board to approve those rates.
All right, so we need to go ahead and authorize, this Carbo bid, project bid,
Advertise for the bids, yeah.
advertise for the bid.
Get it online. And now they'll come back before the board for approval. I mean, this doesn't authorize the project at all. It just authorizes us to go out for
For
bids.
bids, correct. So do I have a motion? So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right, going to G, authorization to apply for the ADECA approval of the Carbo project.
This, we're having to, because of the $200,000 grant that was approved by ADECA for the Carbo wastewater side of the project, we're having to break out a segment of the project, which is the combined pumping station and the pipelines for ADECA funds. So we don't have to do the whole review process on the wastewater plant, just on that smaller portion. So we have to submit those plans to ADECA for approval prior to bidding that, for that additional money, that $200,000 grant. So that's what this request is for, is so Burns can submit that application and those plans to ADECA for approval.
So that has nothing to do with E.
No. ADECA is Alabama Department of Economic Development and Community Affairs.
Barry and I went up and sat down with ADECA and got a grant to help Carbo with this project, an economic development grant of $200,000.
And they have different criteria than normal criteria, so we're having to break out the $200,000 part of the project
How we're gonna use
as a
it.
separate contract. And most likely be the same contractor and everything, but we gotta do it separately, because they got different criteria to meet than the typical ADM criteria.
You gonna buy Burns new socks with this?
That would be
I
between
don't know,
him
by
and
the time I can get through this, I might not be able to afford it.
He said something about a crosswalk on a trail that might take the socks away. So,
Let me ask now, the grant went to the city, right?
correct, officially to the city.
Okay.
Yeah, city's the conduit for it.
You're, okay. But what I'd like to ask the board for, and I don't know if the city will have to do the same thing, but, while we're doing this, we'll get approval to go ahead and bid that project too, unless that was included in that first.
I said the cover project bids,
Okay, so
because
it's-
my assumption would be that's all encompassing.
Because our intent is to have these bid before y'all meet again.
Yeah.
And there's a 20% match on this, the Carver match, $40,000.
Now, logistically, Joey and I have always worked that out, how the money flows, but, it's just a technicality, so.
Yeah.
But we hope to be ready to submit these days after this week.
The plans are substantially done,
Yeah,
everything's done,
They did a review, and I picked those up today.
That was good.
and those are the plans we're laying out there for.
There's also, we were also able to get a Delta regional grant for $100,000 for the water side, which would be something that we do after this. And we're hoping with the potential for a new industry going into Alabama, with the number of jobs that are being created between Carbo and the new company, that we can get an EDA grant of $1 million to apply toward this
Carver water expansion.
water expansion, which is about 20% of that project. And that's the new water tank and the well.
One or two wells, depending on what they conclude their final demand will be.
Right. So, we're keeping our fingers crossed on the other project. Okay, so, we need, for G down here, we need authorization. Everyone explain, everyone?
So moved.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? So moved. All right. That's old business. Let's go on some new business.
Well, this is news for y'all, it's old for us. You want me to go ahead, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
The Riverside Drive, to give a brief history to the board, we've been working with Mr. Morgan Pearson for about a year now, trying to get him sewer to the property he owns at the northeast side of Riverside Drive, in the little hole down there next to the lake. And we've had a number of proposals, we've had boring contractors look at it, we were trying to bore under the road. We had a number of problems. The sewer system stops about 150 foot from his property on the opposite side of the road, and the system is at its lowest point there. It's only about 3 foot deep. We don't have enough room for fall. That's the reason they stopped it there. It ran out of fall. So that's why we're trying to bore, and we got to have some fall. Anyway, we've worked with a number of different contractors, and come to find out none of them would guarantee us any fall from the east side to the west side of Riverside with boring, which is a more economical route than the digging up, because that's a wide paved area. So we then got Hilton Cooper to give us a price to dig it up and install the line, and this is what we're asking for. Mr. Morgan Pearson has already paid this amount, because that's according to board policies, it's whoever requires an extension, they're required to pay the amount of the extension. So he's paid this amount, but it was over my authorization to approve, so I'm requesting the board authorize the project to proceed forward with Hilton Cooper's bid, an estimate to do that, or quote to do that project, and it's no cost to the organization, but we have to have authorization, because we're paying Hilton Cooper, he's paid us, and we got to pay him.
So it's been prepaid.
Yeah, he's already paid the amount, and we just need board approval to authorize Hilton Cooper to go ahead and put it in, and then we'll pay them from the funds that Mr. Pearson gave us.
Okay, we need a motion. So moved.
Second.
All in favor? So moved.
like I said, we tried every way possible to cutting that road, it just wasn't no, we had 3 different bore contractors try to do it, and there's so many utilities, there's no way to get through them all without digging it up and fitting the pipe by hand through there.
Okay. Bill, anything else?
I don't have anything on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, that was enough to keep our mind occupied for the day.
Especially, concrete fixtures you sent around.
That was just update information, that was the engineering report on the polishing pond through at the wastewater plant. Problem we had a while back where the overflow stuffed off the concrete. The engineers, we finally got it drained, and the engineers were able to inspect it, and they gave us a report and a spreadsheet estimate on the cost to repair it. It was about $408,000. Recommend replacing the concrete on about a third roughly of the polishing pond. I took that report and that estimate and forwarded it to the insurance adjuster, because we did file a claim on our insurance about that. He called me yesterday, and he's going to get with the insurance company and go over all the facts and everything, and then let me know how they want to proceed. He said they probably won't just cut us a check, but they'll want to bid it out and then see what the bids come in, and then authorize us to proceed after that.
So we'll have an update at the next board meeting.
Yeah, he said he should know within 2 weeks what the insurance company wants to do.
Looks like the insurance company will come to the extent, or prorated, depreciated value.
Well, I hadn't got that answer yet. Well, he's gonna get with them before he would answer that question. He's just the adjuster, and he's gonna make a recommendation to them, and then they'll look at the policy and determine what they're gonna pay us out of that
So
recommendation.
we don't know what his recommendation is.
Not yet. He said he would be able to let me know within the next 2 weeks probably, once he got with them. So we're just on hold until we hear from them.
You should know something by the next board meeting.
Hopefully we will. And that was the update on that, and I just forwarded that information to y'all so y'all would know what we knew about the reporting and everything, and the cost of replacement.
Good deal. The only thing I have is I'm excited about some of the opportunities that we have out there before us right now, and hopefully, we're moving in a positive direction, and some of these things come about, which we hope they will. A lot of boards gonna have some nice additional customers, and it's right now it seems to be all positive. So thank you, Bill, and Joey and Michael Burns, Christie. Good report, and keep up the good work. Got a lot of work to do, and we won't hold you any longer. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Thank y'all for your time. I need your input for a while. Enjoy it. Like they say, the devil's in the details, and there was a lot of details, all this, we know this thing.
I figured out I can't tell that girl. Martin says I never shut up at home, so I'm not gonna talk about it.
Joy, you wanna sign these for you?
Let me go right on the check. They gonna charge you $2.25 to walk in.
Jack just signs it for you, but I need your signature on these,
I don't know how we ever get away from it.